Hi, we're going to take a look at what's new in our Summer 22 R3 release. My name is Mary Balmer. I'm Director of Product Management. We're going to take a look at the new features and enhancements included in the release, and then we're going to actually go in-app for a demo of those new features. So what are the new features we included? Really excited about this enhancement to our tax settings. In the release you have today, you are allowed to configure tax, but it's set at an org-wide level. So what that means is it applies to every ledger in your org. Now we have brought tax settings down to the ledger level, giving you the ability to configure different tax treatments for different ledgers. If you're using Avalara and you have multiple Avalara accounts, you can now assign a specific Avalara account to a specific ledger. If you need to apply different Avalara tax treatments to different ledgers, you can now do that. If you want to configure Avalara for one ledger and Accounting Seed native tax for another ledger, you can now do that. So we'll take a look at that in a moment. We've also included a new custom import tool. For those of you familiar with Data Import Wizard, Data Loader, you'll know that you can only import into one object at a time. And many times, especially in Accounting Seed, we need to import both header and line items. And so this custom import tool is going to give you the ability to import both the header and line items at the same time, all in one go, making it much more easy to import data. You're going to create mapping files, save them for future use, and then you simply go out and browse to a file, import it using that mapping file, and you're done. We've given you an access point to that new import tool in the Advanced Line Manager. So this was released in the prior release. Now you can use that same mechanism to import data into your objects, and you can also export to a file. So if you have a large volume of line items, you want to review it in a file rather than reviewing it and paginating on screen, you can do that. And you can also make some changes in your file and then re-import it into the org. We've updated the default currency. So when you go to financial reports and you select a ledger, it's going to default in the currency field the currency of the ledger that you selected. If you select a different ledger, it's going to default the base currency of that ledger. And then we've made some updates to field sets. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these new features. I'm looking at an old, I'll call it old tax settings page because this is what you have today. This is not in the new release. And you'll see that you were able to select one of these tax calculation options up at the top and then do some configuration of it. This applied at the org level. Now, when you go into a release, you're going to go to tax settings, and you're going to see that you now can configure as many different tax settings records as you want in this R3 release. Okay, so right now I have one configuration for native tax. I have one configuration for AvaTax. And so now when I go to my multi-ledger defaults, you'll see that I can now assign the appropriate record to each ledger. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at import. I have some recurring billings that I need to import. You can see I don't have any in my org at the moment. I will first go to import templates to create a mapping file. That's what the import templates are. They're my pre-configured and saved mapping files. So if I go into recurring billing, for example, I'm just identifying in which object I want to import. Okay, and then I will select Setup to begin my mapping process. Now, during the mapping process, we're going to ask you to go point to an import file so we can map columns in the file to fields in Accounting Seed. So let's go browse out to my import file, and I'm going to click on Next, and now I'm able to map columns in my import file to fields in Accounting Seed. It's going to ask me what my target object is. In this case, it's going to be a recurring billing header or a recurring billing line. I'm going to map to the appropriate field in Accounting Seed. For lookups, I can choose name or I can choose ID. And in this case, in my file, I chose to the name, so it's going to have the name in the file, so I'm going to choose that here. And then I can choose a column to group my line items so that if I'm importing multiple recurring billings, I know which line items go with which header. Once you create this mapping file, then it's just a matter of preparing your import file and doing the import. So now I can click on import, I can browse to my file and open it, and then click next, and it's going to import the data. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my recurring billings list view, and you're going to see that now I have those two recurring billings imported into my org. So if I go into one of those recurring billings, you'll see that we had made those updates to the recurring billing line items, where you'll see the advanced line manager, and added those buttons for import and export. So this is just another access point to import using that same import tool, and then export will allow you to export out to a file. So when the release is available, please make sure that you refer to the knowledge base for how to configure these new features and for a step-by-step on how to use the new features. Thank you.